and welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. With 4 race starts, we're going to start with our Category 4 riders, then 3, 2 and 1. Our riders lined up in yellow, that is our Category 1 riders. In green, our Category 2. In blue, Category 3. And Category 4 in red.
Kimberly Miller, who is leading this out with all of Walsh. Absolutely putting on some really big numbers coming out. A push, a really fast start from the Category 3 pack. One of the red jerseys, they've just gone past one of the back markers in the Category 2 field. That's one of the back markers in the Category 4 field. So this Category 1 leading group now motoring through the other race fields. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm rating there must be around 11 riders in that leading group. So that's a big group. But I think it's a bigger group in Category 3 at the moment.
Now making the way onto the climb, they have a chain of blue and red dots in front in Categories 3 and 4 respectively. But now the climbing starts in earnest. We're at 27.1k. Remember, it goes up all the way to our finish at 35 kilometres. Here they come. They are coming together, and it's going to mean that Brittany Litton is now our leader on the road. Category 3 have now caught and passed Category 4. In front of them, there are 2 more groups of riders in front in that Category 3 race. I say groups, it's more leader in Clift and then a chasing group. Carolus, Daniel and Kong are coming. They're closing down, as is Roberta Bassoni. Bassoni further down the hillside here, but she's not that far down the hillside, 500 metres back.
Lam Kong kicks. Lam Kong opens up the sprint. She opens up the sprint, really, and she pushes on. Can Carolus do anything about this? I don't think so. This is going to be Lam Kong. She's opened up the sprint first. She's come over the top of Carolus. Lam Kong takes the win in Category 2. Hello and welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. With me today, Emma Martin. I'm going to be bringing you all of the action. Well, all of the action at the start of the women's race. Because Matt Payne, who is normally with us in the studio, is currently on duties in the men's race. I've just left the other full speed event studio where the action was taking place on the course. But don't switch to the men's, because the women's is going to be fantastic. You can catch up on all the men's racing on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club later on, just like I will once we've seen this women's race today. Now, the women today are in Australia. They are heading out and on to the outer loop. Now, I love this race course. Always great action. They come out of the start pen and on to the kicker really early on. It's inconsequential on the map in front of you, but at 7% at 500 metres out of the start pen, it always creates great racing at the start of the outer loop course. We've got 2 sprints today, the Sydney Sprint and the Canberra Sprint along the way, but the main focus of today is indeed the Canberra climb, coming at 15.3 kilometres into this 35 kilometre race. It's 5.4 kilometres in length with an average gradient of 7.6%, but there are some very steep kickers. The first one at 13%, the second at 12, and then the final kicker right up to the finish line at the top of that Category 2 climb, 16% today. Well, we've got 4 categories down in the start pen. Category 1 in yellow, Category 2 in green, Category 3 in blue, and Category 4 in red today are going to be our first group of riders out of the start pen. Just one team today on the start line, the Putty 4 squad, as ever present. Johanna Warren, Nikki Lloyd, welcome back from your holidays, Nikki, and Simone Francis. Now, Warren and Francis have had top 5 positions this month. Lloyd, she's going to need to get her holiday legs back into action, but she is a strong rider. Joined on the start line, 26 riders in total in Category 4 today. Narvaez is here, Bogren, Kirchner, Ellos, Perry, Connell, Vasquez is here. Almansori back on the start sheets today. Sarasuk is here as well. Can't wait to see what these women do. Well, away go category 4. This is qualifier race number 3 for March on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. It is 2024 and the pack are up and out of the start pen, crossing the boardwalk. It's a fast pace on the front at the moment. Silvestro is the rider leading here with Alvarez, with Ferron. These riders pushing on and pushing on hard. Now they've swung out the start pen and taken the left-hand turn on to the course. And you can see on the top right-hand corner of your screen, you can see the graphic that gives you the indication of the profile coming up for our riders. Currently at 3.1%, the gradient changing quite dramatically, but that is the first climb our riders are going to face, and it does kick to 7%. Now, the pack already strung out from the start pen. Take a look at that view. You can see the riders in 1s, 2s and 3s behind the main group. And the main group is Johanna Warren from the Petit Fours, who's leading this pack up the first climb of the day. So Warren, Sarasuk, Lloyd, Elos, all in and at the front of this pack. Great positioning by our Petit Four squad right up and out of the start pen, because this climb, whilst it doesn't determine the race, it really does test A, who has warmed up before the start and are you actually ready to race, and B, who's got their tactics and their nous about them, because you really need to be switched on from the start to ensure you do not get dropped from the pack here. You can't win the race here, but you can definitely be out of the action very, very early on before the first kilometre of racing is done. So category 4 women up and out of the start pen through the first kilometre, up and over the top of the first climb. Shikrin Fu is the rider with Perry, with Elos, with Warren. Bogren is there as well. So is Navarez and Lloyd. These riders all towards the front of this category 4 group. Our first women out of the start pen. And take a look at that. On the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you can see the damage done. The satellite navigation image on the screen on the bottom left, really showing you now what that climb has done to this group. We went in as one group of red riders. Now I count 1, 2, 3, 4, and I know there's a fifth group as well behind that. So 5 groups now on the road. Are we going to see some of these come back together? Yes, I think so. I think group 1 and group 2 will reform. Groups 3 and group 4 may come together to form a group as well, but it's going to be really interesting to see how big this leading group is left once this race starts to settle down. So category 4 are our first race field up and out of the start pen today. They start 5 minutes before category 3, 10 minutes before category 2 and 15 minutes before category 1 today. So they are indeed the leaders on the road for some time. They can indeed be the leaders on the road for the entire 35 kilometres of racing, unless we see one of the later starting categories make the catch. So Silvestro is in the pack here. Perry, Warren, Elos, Alvarez, Fu, Bogren and Lloyd all in here too. This is the leading group of category 4 riders in this women's race. We've got some riders chasing hard behind. In fact, Sarasuk, one of the riders in the early push here, is off the back of this group. She's 2.2 kilometres to the 2.3. She's 100 metres behind the group, around 10 seconds at the moment. And that's 10 seconds she's going to have to push on and close that gap down. So whilst our category 4 riders continue out onto the outer loop course, our category 3 race will be the next race underway. 32 individuals on the start sheets today. De Silva is here. She's had a first place this month already. Bremner, Litton, Reyes, Vink. Sonnerson's had a 5th place already. Cardona, Giraldo, Giuliano, Madeira, Becerra. Turcova's had a 4th and a 5th. Hill has had a 2nd, and Johnson a 2nd and a 4th this month already. So some class riders in this race field today. 32 of them down in that start pen. It's going to be interesting to see what they do on this outer loop course. So away go, category 3. They are up and out onto the outer loop course in Australia. 35 kilometres of racing, 593 metres of climbing. Facing our riders today, 396 of which are on that Canberra climb, which comes at 15 kilometres into this race. Well, Natalia Idzik absolutely in the mix here, well and truly tucked into that group and making the most of a strong start today. De Gracia, Miller, Zugula, Piccoli, Idzik, Cardona, Turkova, Bremner, Giraldo, Johnson, all in the mix here. Ella Vink as well. The pack are tightly bunched, and we can see Natalia Idzik there on the Canyon bike. It's dark outside and the doors open to let the air in. Well, it's not dark in Australia on the Wollongong course at the moment on the outer loop. This pack of category 3 riders, well, they're 600 metres into this race at the moment, and it's nearly 5% of gradient underneath their wheels up this early climb. Idzik is pushing on here. She's in the pack, and at the moment, the damage we saw being done to our category 4 race field, not the same in category 3. So Idzik, Bremner, Marin, Turkova, Sonnerson, all in the mix here in this category 3 group, closer together at this point in the race than we saw in the early stages of that category 4 group. But Isabella Giraldo now really pushing towards the top of this climb. I've just seen 7 watts per kilo. In fact, Kekkonen pushing at around 5 as well, just to get through that exceptionally steep section. The gradient now just leveling off at the front of this pack. It's a long stretch on the category 3 group, but we are not seeing the early damage done as we saw in the category 4 race. So Giraldo, Marin, Vink, Litton, Idzik, Mendoza, Cardona, all in the mix here. One tight group of category 3 riders. In fact, it looks like we've lost one rider from the back of this pack. Well, with 32 riders on the start sheet, one rider off the back, it's still going to be an absolute bun fight to get to the bottom of the outer loop climb, the Canberra climb on this outer loop course at 15 kilometres into this race, because that's where the action is going to happen in this category 3 race. So the category 3 riders up and out of the start pen. Last time the women were here on the outer loop course, just 6 seconds separated Hill and Johnson at the finish. Litton, Vink and Idzik were all top 5. Now, I know we've already mentioned those riders. They are in the pack here. They're in this leading pack, and I imagine we are going to see them towards the end of this race as well, just like we did last time we were here. So on the outer loop course in Australia, 2 sprints. The first sprint coming at 4.2 kilometres into this race. Give us an early indication of how the packs are rolling. The second sprint not coming until 31 kilometres. The Canberra sprint coming 4 kilometres from the finish line. So 2 sprints today, both of 300 metres, will give us an indication of how the pack is rolling. And also that green skin suit will be awarded to the fastest sprinter in each of our race categories. So category 4 out on the race field at the moment. Likewise, category 3 down in the start pen. It's category 2. They are going to be our next race field underway. So category 2 in the green jerseys, just one team in the mix today, but it's a Sunday crew. Jenny Daniel has had a 3rd this month. Sarah Carolus, her teammate, a 2nd and a 5th. So strong riding from those throughout March so far. Dana Davidson on the start sheets today as well, as part and parcel of the Sunday crew. Always a strong rider. 27 riders on the start sheets for category 2, and alongside the Sunday crew, some very strong riders. Amy Clift took the win in category 3 last week, moving up to category 2. Going to be interesting to see what she can do. We've also got some new riders in here, but Lam Kong, who took the win in category 2 last week, on the start sheets today and in the mix. So we're in with Molly Weston as the final seconds countdown for our Category 2 riders. They are up and out of the start pen and on to the outer loop course in Australia. Molly Weston is here. She's taken a 5th this month. Wendy McAlpine's had a 3rd. Stefania Sanchez is here as well. Good to see Julia Walkenhurst on the start sheets as well as Hannah Giannatti. Both of those riders have taken a 4th place this month. Now, as McAlpine is in the front of this bunch, Carolus is the rider leading it out with Hadlock, Montgomery, Montoya, Davidson, Sanchez, and Lopez all in the mix. Jaramillo is here as well. Kristen White, one of our newer riders from the USA, coming into this Category 2 race, really needing to drill the technique here and ensure that she doesn't get distance from this Category 2 pack in this first 1 kilometre of racing. This is a very technical start to this course, and most riders now know that this steep kicker comes so early and they don't let it catch them out. So Montgomery, Montoya, Smithers, Carolus, Hadlock, Walkenhurst and Daniel all keeping close attention at the front of this Category 2 pack as the little climb, the small kicker that really does the damage on the outer loop course, really starts to bite. So 7% at the moment under the wheels of these Category 2 riders, just starting to see a split in the group. You can see that on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. 2 clear groups now forming in this Category 2 race. Carolus, Montoya, Sanchez, McAlpine, Daniel, all on the right side of the split. Weston and Hadlock are there as well. Jaramillo is in the mix too. So is Montgomery and Giannatti. Amy Clift, the rider who's come up from Category 3, she's paid close attention as she's right up here in this Category 2 race and has made the front group. 2 groups now in this Category 2 race. That damage being done by that 7% kicker at 500 metres into this outer loop course. This leading group now pushing on as we continue in with our Category 2 riders. Ballara, another of our new riders in the mix here today, has made the selection as well. So the 2 new riders, Ballara and White, on the start sheets today. Clift come up from Category 3. All 3 of those riders in this leading group now in Category 2. Category 2 underway. They're going to be the next riders through the first sprint. The first sprint coming at 4.2 kilometres into this outer loop course. Category 4 and Category 3 already through that sprint section. Those 2 race fields really moving strongly today on this course. In fact, what we often see on the Australia outer loop course is indeed a fast and hard race to the Canberra climb because, well, after that, it is 14.3 kilometres downhill and pretty much flat to the run in to the finish. If you are not with the group at the top of the Canberra climb, you are not going to be with the group. Well, not unless you work seriously hard on that descent and are not far back. It's so easy to even lose the group you are with on that descent. So it's imperative you go over the top with the leading group. Category 2 now at 2.5 kilometres. Category 3 just over 5k. And Category 4, well, they are at around 8 kilometres into this course now. Category 1, they are sat in the start pen awaiting the go. So Category 1 today are our last field of races in this women's race to go out of the start pen. A number of teams today, 5 teams on the start sheets. Fito Skia, Kalman Bassoni, Columbi, Giovanni on start sheets today. Bassoni's had a 1st and a 3rd. Columbi a 2nd and a 3rd, riding really strongly this month. Nordic Spirit, Van Hove, Engstrom, Velt and Bruni also really strongly ridden this month. Velt and Bruni particularly. Risky Biscuits, Bjarhead and Coinstonen are there for them today. Velo Girls represented by Jeremy Prado. And Wahoo Le Col, well, it's Lucy Collins in the mix for Wahoo Le Col today. 23 riders on the start sheets in Category 1 today. The 5 teams. Alongside those 5 teams, well, Monica Rona comes up from Category 2 and is in the mix as we see the start in Category 1. They've pushed on there across the bridge. Engstrom, London, Svardström, Larsen, Holdcroft, Castano, Manshandi, Hermansen, all in the mix here. German Prado, Velt, all pushing through off and out of the start pen. They're going to come round this right-hand corner and they're going to see that 7% kicker ahead of them. Elise Gallegos in the mix here today. Now, she was indeed second in the Ironman World Championships in 2023, second in her age group, 35 to 39. Phenomenal athlete in the mix here. She was the first American that day. Will she be the first American rider today to cross the line on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club? Well, only time will tell, because she's got some serious competition from other countries with the riders from around the world on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club today in this Category 1 race. So Bassoni, Bruni, Bjarhed, Van Hove, Koinstinen, all in the mix, all pushing on. We've got an early break already in this Category 1 race. 2 riders just off the back of the group here. Shanks has made the split, so has Prado, so has Svardström, so has Van Hoven, Hermansen. These riders all in this leading group here as they come towards the summit of this kicker climb. All 4 race categories today seeing damage done in the early stages of this outer loop course on this kicker. In fact, the 2 riders distanced from this group, well, they are still on the climb, as this is the leading group in Category 1 who have gone up and over. Holdcroft pushes on at the front here. This is a concerted push at the front of this group to keep the pace high. So Maria Holdcroft pushing on. Elise Gallegos has gone with her. In fact, picking up the mantle there. The riders pushing here, Hermansen coming up too as well, really wanting to get this pace high on this descent to ensure that that split stays. Really do not want the groups coming back together again as Holdcroft continues to work on the front of this. These riders here now really working to keep this pace high, to keep this moving. Holdcroft now coming up and over the top. Bjarhed is doing the work as well. So Bjarhed picks up the mantle. In fact, she slowed down on the front there a little, so Holdcroft comes back through, trying to keep the pace high at 4 watts per kilo. Hermansen answers as well. Really interesting to see the tactics here from these Category 1 women wanting a fast pace today. Category 1 wanting a fast pace up and out of the start pen. The early split here really wanting to be cemented. Amelia Velt is the rider at the front here. Nelly Larsen is there too. We can see Hermansen and the effort on her face from this fast and hard start on the Sunday Race Club today. She's in the mix here. She's made the split. She's in Group 1. It's what she wanted, but some real effort has gone in early in this race to ensure positioning for our riders. So Hermansen, Velt, Koinstinen, Larsen, London, Bruni, Prado, all in the mix here in this Category 1 race. They're the last riders out of the start pen today on the Sunday Race Club for the women's race, and they will be the last group through the early sprint segment. So we will see where the Category 1 pack fit in terms of the rest of the groups and take a look at the pace they are riding. We're here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. You can see the split right on the bottom left-hand corner graphic at the moment. 3 clear groups in this Category 1 race, and the leaders in this Category 1 race already established a significant gap on the chase group early in this race. They're 3 kilometres now into this 35-kilometre race, and they are working really hard. Now, a little earlier, our Category 4 riders started 15 minutes earlier, to be precise. They've been racing now for 19 minutes and 45 seconds. And the race is split in Category 4. So multiple groups on the road in our Category 4 race. The leaders at 11.3 kilometres into this race. And it's a group of what looks like 2, 4, 6 riders in the lead of that Category 4 race. It's a lot more than 6 riders leading the Category 2 race at the moment. It's a large group still in the front pack here. Daniel is here, Montgomery, Yaramillo, Barragan, McAlpine, Davidson. In fact, Julia Montgomery, you can see the concentration on her face watching the screen in her room where she's riding. The pack here wanting to stay in this pack, wanting to make the most of the draft. And in fact, you can see, taking a look at her numbers at the top and the middle of the screen, her power is indeed in the green. So 121, 192, 292 watts, all in green at the moment, signifying she's in the draft. When that number ticks into the white colour, that means that the rider is out of the draft. We're in with Barragan at the moment, and she is rolling in and out of the draft at the moment. You can see her numbers going from white to green, from green to white, signifying that change in her position in the pack. So, large group of Category 2 riders, still a large group of Category 1 riders. They're over 3 kilometres behind our Category 2 leading group. But this group are rolling and rolling strong. Bassoni leading the group at the moment. She took the win last week on the Yerbeliers in 1 hour and 2 minutes. It was Bruni in 2, Columbi in 3, Bjarhead in 4, and Engström in 5. But it's Gallegos and Hermansen with Svardström who are pushing on through this sprint at the moment. This is a Sydney sprint. It's 300 metres. They are pushing towards the green banner. They are really pushing for this. So the end of the Sydney sprint, that is the banner that has just come through. Will they take the sprint from Kristen White, who's the fastest Category 2 rider? Well, we are very shortly going to see the results from that sprint. There we go. So Holdcroft from Hermansen. Holdcroft 22.4 seconds, just ahead of Hermansen, Gallegos, Svardström, Bruni, Koinsten and Bjarhead, Larsen and Engström. In fact, Velt from Category 1 rounds out the top 10. 16 riders in that leading group in Category 1. Kristen White, the fastest rider in Category 2, followed by Lopez, Davidson and Barragan. So 16 riders in this leading group in the Category 1 race. We had 23 riders on the start sheets today. We saw that early selection in the first 1,000 metres of the race. And this group now pushing on again, going through the sprint here and not wanting to back off the pace. So Hermansen, Holdcroft, Gallegos, Bruni, Svardström here, 5 riders pushing on in this Category 1 race. And you can see now we've got breaks in the group. This pack now at 54 kilometres an hour and continuing to keep the pace high. Slight downhill run at the moment and the momentum really working for them. They've distanced 2 riders now off the back. So the group of 16 now becoming 14. And this is what those leading riders want in this group. They want to slowly cause attrition to this leading group. They do not want to take the 23 starters into the bottom of the Canberra climb together at 15 kilometres. They don't want to take the 16 riders who they took over the first climb. So 14 riders now in this Category 1 leading pack. Heather Shanks, it's looking like, has been distanced from the group. And Jeremy Prado, the rider who came up from Category 2 not long ago, not able to hang with the pace. So Prado and Shanks, the 2 riders, distanced on that attack following the sprint in Category 1. In Category 2, the pack looks to be pretty much the similar size. They are just shy of 10 kilometres into this race now. So they are going through the underwater tunnels at the moment. And there is a climb. In fact, they are about to come onto the climb. And you can see that on the graphic on the top right-hand corner of their screen. While Category 1 were about to drop in, Category 2 were about to climb out of the underwater tunnels. Category 3, well, they are a little further along the course at 11.8 kilometres into this course. They are up and out from under the tunnels. They have dropped in and they have climbed out and are now on the flat transition into the Canberra climb. So Bremner, Vink, Miller, Mendoza, all here in the front of this group. In fact, we've got Kimberly Miller just on our screens at the moment as well, concentrating and working hard as she is on the screens here today. Category 3, one strong group here. You can see a chase group of Category 3 behind, but the key next move for this group, well, they're about to come onto the back markers in the Category 4 race. Leaders in Category 3 have got Category 4 riders in their sights. Now, just a quick reminder, our Category 4 riders started 5 minutes before our Category 3 race field. This Category 3 race field working very, very strongly today. Sarasuk, one of our early pushers on in that Category 4 race, is one of the riders about to get swept up with this Category 3 pack. So we've got riders in the mix here, Category 4 riders just ticking along with this Category 3 pack. And they're able to do this at the moment because we are on a flat section of this course. My expectation being once we hit the Canberra climb and the gradient starts to hit 13%, our Category 4 riders, well, they are not going to be able to stay with this Category 3 race field any longer. It's a big group of Category 3 riders now sweeping up the back markers in the Category 4 race. Category 4 riders now at the front of that race, coming to the base of the Canberra climb. They're going to be the first riders on that climb today. They were first riders out of the start pen. They are going to see the polka dot banner first, signifying the start of the Canberra climb. You can see them there now. That is it. Over the bridge, past the waterfall. That's the polka dot banner. So 4 riders leading this Category 4 race. Perry, Bogren, Warren and Elos. 4 riders here. One rider just slightly off the back there, but pushing on to get back into the group. That's Silvestro, who we saw early really kick in. A 6th rider now coming back to the group. That's Shiku Few. So just joining the back of that group. So as we go into the bottom of this climb, 6 riders now in this Category 4 race. Nikki Lloyd, 56 seconds back. She's 300 metres behind. So in 7th place, returning from her holidays. She's had a lot of sunshine. She's come back to the UK. Well, sorry, Nikki, but you're back to the rain and the grey. I apologise about that, but there's not a lot we can do about the British weather. So 6 riders now in this leading group. Navarez is indeed just in front of Lloyd. So 6 riders now at the front of this race. The gradient is about to get steeper. Category 4, the first group of riders on to the climb today. Gradient currently just shy of 5.5%, and we're in with one of the riders in this leading group at the moment, Shiki Fu at the moment here with Perry, Bogren, Warren, Elos, and and Silvestro in the mix here. Navarez and Lloyd, the 2 riders who have not made the selection to this leading group. These riders pushing on now up the climb. No real attack coming from any of these riders at the base of this climb. The pace, well, for me, they are just tapping along at what would be a comfortable climbing pace for our Category 4 riders. Back in Category 1, they're about to climb out of the underwater tunnels. Are they going to take this as an opportunity to push on at the front of this group? It's Bruni who is leading the ride here. Velt in 2, Koinstinen in 3, working strongly with this group, but the group all still together at the moment. Category 1 leading group. A big, strong pack here. The chase that they can see in front of them is a group of Category 2 riders, and those will be back markers in that Category 2 race field. Just now coming out of the underwater tunnels, Hermansen, Engström, Bruni, Larsen, Van Hove, Gallegos, Bjarhead, Svardström, all in the mix here. Nelly Larsen is in here too. Sarah Lundin as well as Bruni. These riders, well, there were 14 riders going in and 14 riders coming out still in one large group in this Category 1 race. Category 3, a little bit further down the race course. This is going to be our next group of riders on to the Canberra climb. They are going to see, as they come around this corner, the polka dot banner. They can just see that now if they lift their heads. They're going to catch Katie Baggott first, I think, and sweep her up before we get to the base of the climb. Back at one of our new Category 4 riders. Welcome, Katie, to the Sunday Race Club. Great to have you on board. Now's the time to dig. Now's the time to see if you can't stay with that pack, that large group of riders, for as long as possible. But I hope you are enjoying the Sunday Race Club and your first race with us in Australia on the Outer Loop. Well, Philippa Hill is the rider leading this Category 3 pack up the climb. Brittany Litton is keeping her company. So is Ella Vink. Cardona is here too. These riders all pushing on. It's a big, big group. And as we jump in with Ella Vink again, you can see the concentration on her face on these early slopes. It's 5.4 kilometres of climbing facing this leading Category 3 race field. It's a big group of just shy of 20 riders going into the base of the Canberra climb together. Vink and Miller are up at the front, but no one has lit the touch paper on this climb yet. As our Category 3 riders start the Canberra climb, I have Matt Payne joining me in the studio. He's just finished the men's race, and if you give me 30 seconds, we will have Matt with us on the microphone. So whilst our women have been heading towards the Canberra climb and Category 3 and Category 4 have been working their magic with the hill heading upwards, Matt Payne has joined me in the studio. Matt, it's great to have you here.
It's great to be here. And it's very different coming into the studio too halfway through a race. We had some great racing in the men's race. I'm not going to give you any spoilers. Please do watch it. It was on the Heritage Climb, and if you're a regular watching the women's race, you'll know that course really does provoke aggressive racing. It was absolutely manic. It was like being in the middle of a fireworks display. I think it's probably the best description I can give you, with things happening sort of to your left, to the right, in front and behind. And it really was absolutely down to the way. I'm not going to give any spoilers.
Then, when I left Studio One and I left the men's race to come over here and start the women's race, it was all starting to happen on the first climb of the day.
That was nothing, believe me.
It got better.
Oh, it didn't just get better. It was in a different galaxy, believe me, all the way over. A really, really manic race. Do watch it. So jump on board. Don't forget, you can watch back all of the racing on MyWhoosh on YouTube. Goes back years. If you watch that back, give it a follow, give it a subscribe. Thank you everybody who's subscribed. I know we're on big numbers as well at the moment. Now, I'm joining in part way through the women's race, and instead of giving me like 5 minutes to actually catch up with what's going on, Emma has quite literally dropped me in at the deep end here, which is not a problem because actually I was sneakily listening in to the production before I left Studio One here at Full Speed Events. So fortunately, it has meant that as we come across onto the climb, I can tell you that our Category 2 leaders on the way in, this big group at the moment making the way in to the climb. This is where we expect the break to happen, if there's going to be one, and it is an if, because the outer loop race route, despite having that big drop partway to the climb, This is where it really counts. Now, categories 4 and 3 were flying up here, and it looked really aggressive. Are you expecting the same from category 2? What's been happening?
Well, let me just give you a very quick recap because it's very easy. If you, like Matt, have just joined us, you've just switched over from the men's racing to the women's racing, and you haven't started at the beginning of the women's race, what you have missed is the fact that all 4 categories came out of the start pen and kicked on the small kicker within 500 metres.
Ouch.
It split the groups. That has been the main split of these groups today. Category 4 and Category 3, well, they are already on the climb. Category 4, down to a group of 6. Category 3, big group of around 20 riders came in and had started the climb in a very steady state. Category 2, now we can see Corollas's face with the concentration, as well as all those medals behind her on the wall, as we see a kit come in at the front of this Category 2 pack. So the only race field we don't have now on the Canberra climb on this outer loop course is indeed our Category 1 riders. Last time we saw them, 14 riders in the leading group.
So one group to go on to the climb. Now, one of the things that I'm going to bring in from categories 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the men's race, the shift in race timing meant that it seemed like everybody thought, oh, maybe today's my day to do something different and have a chance. Because there was very much a case that, established riders we know the good riders and they were up there. But there was a lot of people, I think, maybe just trying to have a go when maybe they wouldn't, because they didn't know whether this was going to suit them, the time change. Have we seen different names up there? I know we've got some newer riders.
For some of our riders, it's been a 9-hour wait from the traditional Sunday Race Club start time. 9 to 10 hours difference. Now, for some people are morning people and love racing in the morning and don't like racing in the evening.
Hello.
Other people love racing in the evening and don't like racing in the morning. And we also know
Emma,
that some of our riders go to bed, wake up, race the Sunday Race Club, then go back to bed because it's 3:30, 4 a.m. in the morning. And we know that week in, week out, they get up at those times. For others, it's nearly midnight and they go to bed once they've finished racing. So this has all shifted. This has all changed because of this change in times. So it's interesting to hear it affected the men's race, Matt.
It did. There was definitely a case. I think everybody was, they had itchy legs. They were desperate to go.
I don't think anybody's got itchy legs today in this women's race.
It's not
much steadier. But then the course, for me, the outer loop course always does bring a much steadier race because you've got I want to say fairly flat. It is fairly flat, first 15 kilometres. Then once you get to the top of the Canberra climb, which is a 5.4 kilometre climb, you've then got a 14.3 kilometre run into the finish, which is pretty much downhill or flat.
And one of the things I think with this course, like you say, that run to the finish means that people always try and make sure, yes, you've got to treat almost the top of the Canberra climb as your finishing line when it comes in. And you get to that 20.7 kilometre marker. But you've still got to have something left. And the run to the finish, it isn't actually flat. It has a little bit of a rise and fall in there, enough maybe to break it up, but some interesting riding. Now, category 1 on the way in here. Emma, of our big names in here, anybody particularly that you think I can just see we've got Gallegos in here, always going to be strong on the climb, really getting used to riding the platform. Interesting to see that we've got in here people like Engstrom, we've got Coyston in here, Van Hove, Velt in here. It does look to still be a who's who.
It is. It really is. And through the Sydney Sprint, Matt, in Category 1, Holdcroft, Manson, Gallegos and Svardström really pushed on. They really pushed on and they continued to push on and they continued to work. So I think that little bit of mixing it up is absolutely what these riders want to do today. And I think we might see some different riders come to the fore today. Well, we're in with Cornelia Engstrom at the moment, up and out the saddle in real life. Her avatar working hard as well in the mix here today. So Engstrom and Svardström at the back of this group now. As the gradient starts to kick this early bit here, around 6.5% at the moment on this climb. We know it's going to get steeper. This early section kicks up to 13%.
And then we have a step. And one of the key things with this, there are steps. The first step is flatter. It's longer. It gives you plenty of time to recover or attack, depending on how you're feeling. You've got the second riser, and then we have a shorter step, which actually takes next to no time to go across. Is Gallegos' move here? 6 watts a kilo. She's kicking on here to get onto the wheels here of Bruni. That was an instant response there. We know at least Gallegos is a very, very accomplished rider on both on esports and out on the road.
Yes.
We know she's an absolute class. At the moment, you can just see her on the left-hand side of your screen, down the bottom left-hand side, focused in on the ride here, and really is trying to hold that pace in with that group. But you've got some incredibly experienced Madonna Degamashandi, a rider who's been riding this for such a long time, Lisa Manson, with some of our newer riders, Maria Holcroft. And I noticed she was the fastest rider through that Stony Sprint. Clearly getting used to the platform and how it rides.
Holcroft is a very strong rider. I've seen her take wins already this year, and she really is in the mix here today. She's absolutely making her name known early on in this race. She came through that sprint in the fastest time, and she's continued to light some fire under the other riders and create some action. But Bruni, for me at the moment, is absolutely the rider on form. She's continuing to push on the front here. Koinstinen is working hard as well, and Mina Koinstinen, for me, she's very, very strong climber, and this is really going to play to her strength now, I think, for this section of the course.
And Mina Koinstinen, on the way back from an injury, on the way back from illness, coming back from recovery, really starting to come back to the fore. We know that she's been doing some work, some strength training work in the gym, as well as out on the bike. And at the moment, she's certainly climbing strongly. I mean, Merle Bruni last week, I think she was top 3. Was she second place?
Bruni finished second, last week to Bassoni on the Yebel Ace.
And that's a massively long climb, whereas here we've got a shorter climb with steep gradients on there. But get the gearing right, get your pacing right, and you still use those skills here. And I think that's key to me. So Koinstinen, Merle Bruni, we've got Gallegos, Degamashandi, Bassoni. Now, Bassoni's an absolute climbing demon. I mean, you know, if you said climb, and you picked one climber, surely Bassoni would be it. But this is not just about climbing.
No, this isn't just about climbing. Bassoni's had a first and a third this month already. She took the win on the Yebel Ace. She was third on the Heritage Climb for Qualifier 1. So she's obviously a rider on form. But whilst the climb is absolutely essential to this race, it is not the only thing in this race that is important. You've got to get from the top of that climb to the finish line, and it's a long run.
So will they be able to make it? Well, at 16.7k, our Category 1 leaders at the moment, Koinstinen and Bruni, just starting to break this group apart. Elisa Gallegos on her way. Gallegos on her way up to them at the moment. She's pushing, but she's not pushing at the same level. There's a push and a rest at the moment. Bassoni is with her, but the rest of the group are on her heels here. Left-hand side of your screen, it's multicolour on the climb. I'm going to do an Emma giddiness about the multicolour dots, sweeping the way up there and loving the screen, because that is absolutely fantastic. You can see such a graphic illustration of the riders on the way up this climb here today. There on the left-hand side of your screen, there are leaders in Category 1. Right-hand side of your screen are leaders on the road at the moment. Category 4, but not far behind Category 3 leader. Kimberly Miller is on her way here. She's riding really strongly, currently at what it looks to be 1 minute 30 or so behind. Will she get that down? She should be able to bring that down, I think, by the finish. But this Category 4 race, really intriguing here. So Perry Bogren in there. We've got Warren in there as well, I think. This is going to be really interesting to watch how they play this out in Category 4, because it's still a strong group. 19 kilometers covered. Remember, the top of this climb comes at 20.7, so still a long way to the top. They're still just approaching, in fact, our second step. That's coming up very shortly indeed.
They have. And what's interesting for me in this Category 4 race, we saw 6 riders go into the bottom of the climb together in Category 4. And it looks to me like we've still got 5 riders in that group. It looks like they've just dropped Ellis from it, and that is it. But no real high pace. We didn't see a high pace coming out of the group at the bottom of the climb. They're still climbing at pretty much the same pace, that category 4 group, as we saw earlier. Now, for me, it's like they've gone in and gone, what pace can we climb this whole climb at without pushing on? Well, let's sit here for a bit and see if we can all get to the top together.
Well, that's a brutal analysis.
Well, it just seems to me like Cat 4 have done a very friendly climb.
Well, maybe that's what everybody needed today, and they're going to save it all for the end. We see that in Grand Tour stages. Sometimes the bunch will have an unofficial truce to partway through the stage because they all need that recovery, and they then, when it does go, oh my goodness, does it go? We will see. Now, really interesting. I was just watching the time gaps here between our chasing group in category 1 and our 2 leaders. At one point, the time gaps were showing up at nearly 20 seconds, but that was because our chasers were on the ascent on the steep section doing a lower speed, and our leaders were descending across that long flat section. It should start to stabilize now in terms of speeds and give us a more accurate indication of that time gap, which is currently showing, you ready for this, 21 seconds, the gap. So up at the front, Merle Bruni, clear at the moment. You've got Mina Koistonen for company. They are, at the moment, our 2 leaders. Now, this big group behind have to make some decisions and make them fast. Do you climb and do you chase and expend potential energy here? And it looks like Bassoni and Holcroft are starting to be of that mind. Or do you wait as a big pack and then come through and hammer into the finish? How much time can you give these riders? Very difficult calculation to work out. I reckon you can give a minute to 2 riders on the top here.
No way at all. I reckon 25 seconds.
No, I think you can give a minute.
But
if you're
only
a big
if you
group.
but the group of 8 have got to work together, and we often see riders choose not to work.
But there's still plenty of prizes up for grabs. There's only 2 riders in front, not a massive group. You've still got the massive riders behind, and they're all strong. Let's see what the time gap is at the top of the climb, if they're still holding it. And that's still a long way to go. We all know that if you're on a big climb, you can see gaps open and break apart. If you haven't watched the Trofeo Alfredo Binda, the women's classic, or certainly should be a classic, the long-established race in Italy, you'll know, if you have watched it, just how gaps open and how they can be closed down very, very quickly indeed on the climb. It's well worth a watch if you're into your road cycling, but lots of different disciplines with lots of action at the moment on the track, on the road, and of course, on esports here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club with our premier race series underway again here every Sunday. We're coming up for our 2-year anniversary. Well, my 2-year anniversary. Putting words to the action here. And I'll tell you something, I've enjoyed every single racer. I have to say that. Absolutely astounding racing. I love just watching different riders going for it. Julian Montgomery, category 2.
Yeah, really pushing on at the moment.
Really pushing. When we first started, all our categories started together. Now we've got them split apart. There's so many riders. And Montgomery here, category 2, just showing us just why, because she's absolutely nailing this left-hand side bottom of the screen. You've got Miller again, really pushing to open up that gap. You've got a group chasing 2 leaders here. The racing is getting more and more competitive as time goes by. We are still seeing great racing. We're still seeing people being brave and going for this and really pushing on. Montgomery being closed down by Carolus here and Giannetti. Fantastic racing.
It is indeed, and you can see on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen on the category 1 race, the multicoloured snake of riders up the mountain at the moment. These riders continuing to push, continuing to work, and continuing to pick up riders in other groups. Now, 5 riders currently leading the category 4 race, 1 rider pushing on in category 1, 4 riders in category 2, but I think there's a bit of a push and a bit of a change coming there, Matt. And the category 1 race, well, we saw 2 riders go down the road. We saw 8 riders in the chase group. Quinston and Bruni now 40 seconds clear of the chase group. Holdcroft, Velt, Van Hove, Bassoni. Those are the 4 chasing riders, because Manshandi, well, she's now 6 seconds back. It is all being laid out on this mountainside.
It is, but remember that because we are coming up to our second step, our leaders are already pushing through the flat section at speed and onto the third part of the climb. And that's actually where we see Kimberly Miller on the third part of that climb.
Yeah.
And the Category 1 leaders are coming very, very quickly. I think they've committed to this. They are really starting to squeeze on here. Remember, we've still got a fair way to this summit. 20.7K is the summit of this climb.
And this is the steepest part of the climb. At the moment, 12.7% under their wheels. It will get to 16% just near the top. So Miller and Piccolo, the two riders here in Category 3, working hard together. They are stuck wheel by wheel. Ella Vink is leading the charge behind. So Vink and Turkova and Hill and Zabala, it's not just Vink, it's a group. And that group, well, will there be strength in numbers on the other side of the outer loop?
Well, look at the effort coming from Kimberly Miller here. Absolutely pushing this to the limit. You can see that Stefani Piccolo is the rider that is with Miller at the moment. Philippa Hill at 30 seconds. Piccolo putting in a great ride to come up with Miller. And they are really working hard to keep the pace on here. They have riders in front to close down on, but there are not many left. You can just see Georgia Perry being closed down, just being picked up by the leaders in Category 3. In front, you can see that you've got Fushiku in there. You've got Joanna Warren right up at the front. The leading rider last we saw was Gisela Ciliano Silvestro, who was leading this out. But these two are coming, and I tell you something, there is some serious effort being put in. The gap back to the chasing group is reasonably substantial. I think it's almost mirror image, Category 3 and Category 1. Category 2, left-hand side of your screen here, we're in with Montgomery at the moment. I'm looking at the dot-to-dot behind, and it looks to me like although her pace has gone up and down, she is still looking good here.
Yeah, Montgomery is indeed looking good. We've got one other rider. Jenny Daniel is also working her way through that Category 3 chasing group. So Daniel and Montgomery, the two Category 2 riders. Hannah Giannatti is also now coming through that pack as well. So interesting to see the Category 2 riders working their way through the chase group in the Category 3 race.
And we're seeing the same thing now with Category 3 coming up to the front of the race in the Category 4 riders, because you're seeing Miller and Piccolo at the moment. They're working their way through the Category 4 leaders. They've passed Perry. They've put 20 seconds into Perry. They're still clear of Category 2, who are at 26 seconds with Carolus, who is currently leading Category 2. So Category 2 leader Carolus about 26 seconds down on these riders, with Perry, who's in 5th place in Category 4. The leaders of Category 3 right up with this group, but you can see the chasers underneath the green MyWhoosh banner, underneath the Ramadan banner, and across the course there. The leaders, though, here being picked up. Bogren is being caught. It looks to me like Siciliano has been caught as well, so Silvestro caught. You've got Miller and Piccolo now making the way to the front here. They can't afford to back off and just sit with these riders because there's so many riders behind. It's compressing. It's being squeezed as they come to the top. They've got to be able to get over the top as a group or with riders. You go on your own, you're going to be in trouble here.
Well, 400 metres left to go of this climb, Matt, and we're starting to see all of our race fields and all of our categories come together. Category 2, Category 3, Category 4. I don't think it's going to be very long till we see the leader in the Category 1 race as well come up into the top 10 in this race field. In fact, take a look on the left-hand side of your screen. That is Bruni and Coinston. They are still glued together on this mountainside just outside of the top 20. And do you know what? They are only 100 metres away.
So there's 20 riders in the 100 metres. We've got more distance to go, then we have distance between our riders in the top 20. I wouldn't put money on it not being our category one who go over the top first here. At the rate they're going, it's going to be a really close run thing. Jenny Daniel doesn't want that to happen. She's really pushing on. You see her on the left-hand side of your screen. And look at her winding it up now as that gradient goes to 10.5%, 10.7 at the moment. And she's going to need to keep squeezing. Remember, this is a climb that keeps on kicking. She's got to push over the top. And there is a small plateau on the top where you can regroup. But it is incredibly short. We're talking 100 meters or so. If you don't get on, you're going to be in trouble. You can see it on the left of your screen, that horseshoe turn basically is the top of the hill. You go up, you turn, you're on your way back down.
And the other key thing to note is the fact that you've got to kick it once you start going downhill to get your momentum and your speed up. Because if you don't, someone behind you will, and they will come straight over the top. You've really got to keep mentally switched on this downhill segment.
Do you think, Emma, that we're going to see, because we've got so many groups, so many riders, that even riders who have broken away and got a gap maybe in category 1, 2, or 3, or 4 at the very front are going to find, because there's so many riders so close together, at the top of this hill here, at the top of the mountain, you're going to get a big train, a lot of draft available, and chasing groups could come on. The gaps will open as you go over. Watch the speed as the leading riders go over. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen, the distance opening up between the front pack over the top. So you can see Mina Coinston now going over the top, taking that right-hand turn and in towards the descent. It's not a big turn around here. We're currently basically on the flat. We're about halfway round at the moment. We're going to turn around. We're going to face back down the hill, and we're going to go diving back down. They have got riders in front. Now, at the start, when I came in, I wouldn't have predicted that all of our lead ride leaders in each category would be together on the top of the climb. They were. Merle Bruni, Amina Coinston, and closing the gaps down. You can see that they're pulled back. Montgomery, Carolus, Daniel Giannatti in category 2, Miller, Piccola, and Vic in category 3. They're pulled back. Shiki Fu, along with Siciliano Egiso, as well as Bogren, as well as Warren in category 4. A real mix of riders in it. Interesting to see Brittany Listen right up in the mix here as well. Good to see Listen in there. Thank you very much, Brittany, for reaching out to us. A lot of our riders getting in touch with us, whether you do social media, you send it by Instagram, whether you send us an email via Race Control, please guys do get in touch. Really appreciate you getting in touch with us.
Well, I love the fact we were talking dogs last week, weren't they? Because your injured dog was underneath the desk in Studio 1.
Yes, thank you everybody who said they hope that Indy gets well soon. He does look a little bit like Frankenstein's monster with a scar round his middle at the moment, because it is kind of like that classic line with dots either side, but he is basically pretty much recovered. So thank you very much, guys.
Brittany Litton, bless her, sent us a video of her 2 dogs, and then she sent us a picture of her cat, because her cat is apparently also thinks it's a dog called Ron.
Okay, well, let's see if they can interpret the map equally, whether they're cats or dogs. Who is going to be barking, who is going to be meowing, and who is going to have their claws out when they get into the finish. This is what's in front of the riders. We've got the drop down from the Canberra climb. We then go along. Now, we have 4 little bumps on the way to the Canberra sprint. But if you look closely between the Canberra sprint and the finish, you'll see this is not flat. There are 2 rises up, a run down, and then another bump to go over. Those can be trigger points. They can be a place to go.
They can be. And actually, the key trigger point for me is after the Canberra sprint. We will see, I think, riders attack through the Canberra sprint and push on, particularly if we've got groups come together. But after the Canberra sprint, you can see there's 2 small kickers. That, for me, is the opportunity to take a long run for the finish, because otherwise you're saving it all for the final 1 kilometre.
And because of that change in terrain, because of the running, it's a very technical finish. It's hard to see the finishing line. You've got to make sure you get your timing right. You don't want to go too early and get rolled. You don't want to go too late and miss out. It's down to those riders. This is where riding on the platform is key. So please make sure you jump on board. Really key.
Well, key news here is that Bruni is just distance from Coinston on the descent here at the moment. So Coinston 2 seconds in front of Bruni on the descent. That's 2 seconds. That isn't really going to make much difference. Hannah Giannatti, now the category 2 rider, needs to hold on to that back wheel of Bruni and Coinston because they really need the toe. But Giannatti cannot stay with the pace. And interestingly, The pace coming out of Coinston and Bruni on this descent, close to the pace that they went up the ascent. They are working so hard to get to the front of this race. There's 3 Category 2 riders ahead of them. They want to stay ahead of the chasing group. 12 seconds to Jenny Daniel. She's at the front of this race. Sarah Carolus is in 2 and Julia Montgomery in 3.
So the leading rider, Jenny Daniel, descending like an absolute demon on the way down. Julia Montgomery trying to stay with her at the moment. Carolus not far off. Coinston in 4th place on the left of your screen, leading in Category 1. You can see that we've got Holcroft on the right-hand side of your screen. That is the nearest chasing rider to the 2 leaders who are on the left-hand side. Bruni makes contact with Koistonen. They've got Miller in there as well. The Category 3 rider doing an absolutely storming ride here in that polka dot jersey, riding just in front here of Bruni. The riders at the moment on the front, they are not using this descent for recovery. They are absolutely nailing this. I've just seen on the right-hand side of our screen, Holcroft at 5.7 watts per kilo. She's just back down a little bit at the moment now. As these riders come down, you cannot nail this from the finish of the climb to the finish of the race. You just can't hold that kind of pace all the way in. They've got to be smart where they ride and where they use their strength here. And it's so easy, I think, to panic on this descent and burn a match before you get into the finish. But the speed here is incredible.
There's a really, really fine balance on this descent. We have seen chase groups bring back attacking riders. So riders that have gone clear on the climb have been brought back by some very savvy riding and technical riding on the descent of this climb. Now, riders who go over the climb at the top in front know this, and they know that they've got to push on right the way to the bottom. They are clearer and safer at the bottom than they are on the descent.
Yeah, and I mean, just see Jenny Daniel here. I mean, her descent down there was absolutely superb. You know, but take that woman to Milan San Remo and to do that descent down the Poggio or down the Cipressa. I mean, fantastic descending down there. Now, when we talk about a technical descent, Emma, we're not talking about being able to go around hairpin turns without going over the crash barriers, are we? We are talking about maximising the speed for the effort that you put in there.
We are talking about
minimising your losses.
Yeah, we are talking about momentum and knowing how to use momentum. That is the technique that we are talking about here. And the momentum is gained by putting power down at certain points on the descent, particularly places where it transitions from a downhill to a slight uphill. You want the momentum and the speed on the downhill, so you don't wait till the uphill transition or you are on the uphill to put the power down. You want to kick on the descending part to pick the momentum and the speed up to carry you over the climb, not wait until you're on the climb to press on those pedals.
So our leaders now in Category 1, catching our leaders in Category 2. Daniel right up there. Carolus used those Category 1 riders to get up there. So we have 2 riders from Category 1, 2 riders from Category 2 leading this race out. 4 riders clear at the front behind. Montgomery is the nearest chasing rider. Then Miller, Gianatti, Vic and Co.
Smart riding from Sarah Carolus there to come back to Daniel using Bruni and Koistonen. Now, these 2 riders, Bruni and Koistonen, will indeed continue to push on. Can Carolus and Daniel stay with them to stay clear of Julia Montgomery? Or will these 2 be moving too fast for Daniel and Carolus to stay with? I think it is the latter. I think Daniel and Carolus are not going to be able to stay with them. So it's going to be 2 riders in Category 1, 2 riders in Category 2. That's what it's looking like to me. But if Bruni and Koistonen sit up, Carolus and Daniel are going to try and utilise that draft as much as possible.
And I think that, for me, is going to be really, really key here. It's utilising the draft for the 2 riders here in Category 2, but doing it in a way. See, if I was here now and I was Sarah Carolus, I wouldn't be giving a ride to Jenny Daniel here. I would be sprinting onto the wheels. I'd drop back, sprint onto the wheels, drop back, sprint onto the wheels, because I would want to lose somebody. Because if I can lose a rider who is my competitor and sit on the wheels of these guys, you're going to be able to get the lift, but you've got to be able to do it. And it's so much easier said than done. You know, I'm sure at the moment that Jenny Daniel's going, will you shut up? Because my legs are absolutely killing me.
Jenny Daniel and Sarah Carolus are very well matched, I'll tell you.
are. Yeah.
They really, really are very, very well matched competitors. And week in, week out, race hard against each other. They know each other's skills. They know each other's strengths. And they will be thinking about, how do I win the race over my competitor? Well, Kimberly Miller, I tell you, is riding a cracker at the moment, leading the Category 3 race. Ella Vink is chasing hard with compatriots there. There's a group of riders chasing hard, but they are 30 seconds back. Kimberly Miller absolutely nailing it this week.
I think the problem for Miller here, for me, Ella Vink has the possibility that she will be caught first by a big chasing pack of Category 2 and Category 1 riders. And that gives Vink a little bit of advantage in terms of she's going to see those riders coming, but it depends where they come. You get caught on a 2.5% gradient up here. That's not helpful. It really isn't, because it means you're really going to have to dig incredibly deep here to keep pushing on here. Interesting names here in these Category 3 and Category 4 riders going in and through. Molly Weston in here. We've got McAlpine in here. It looks sort of like we've got Davidson in here, but they're being picked up by riders like Maria Holcroft in here, Amelia Velt in here. We've got Category 2 riders like Walkenhurst in here. They're making the way up. And if you get picked up by a good group here, this could be the case that all the groups will come together because of the Category 1 riders coming in and the riders behind using their skill to come on. Now, we do get people saying, it's not fair, somebody drafted behind. That draft is available to everybody. And I'm quite mean in this regard, because I think it's a skill that you need to learn, to draft riders who are better than you. And the way to learn is to ride with better riders who are more skilled and better, i.e. riders who are in the category above. So if you never get caught by a category rider above, you're never going to get to know what they do to actually be so good. If you have that opportunity of being caught, you can either get upset about it, or you can use it as a learning experience. And if you use it to learn, that is absolutely key.
And also, the other thing you can do to use to learn is to watch old races back.
Yes.
So if you know, for example, that you had problems with the draft and where you were caught on the outer loop course, go back and watch previous outer loop course races. You know, you can pick them up on the MyWhoosh website under the results section, and you can take a look at what date they were. Then you can go over to the YouTube channel, you can get the correct video off of the MyWhoosh YouTube channel, and you can watch the race. You can see the other categories and how they behaved on the course other than your own.
Well, we will find out now. Riders going up over the top at the front of the racing category 1, Merle Bruni, along with Mina Koisten, are our leaders on the road. They've got 7 seconds on the riders on your screen, so they are up the road. They're not quite out of sight. You can just see the 2 yellow jerseys just in front at the moment, 7 seconds separating them. You've got Jenny Daniel and Sarah Carolus glued together here. Well matched, as Emma has said. Behind Miller,
Category 3.
currently riding in Category 3 with Julia Montgomery, Category 2 rider. Those 2 riders are both our riders in the polka dot skin suits of the best climbers in Category 3 and in Category 2. Behind them, it is nearly another 30 seconds back to Ella Vink and Hannah Giannatti, and time is running out. We are coming through to the end of the Canberra Sprint. The riders going through at the moment are at the front of the race. What was going to be really interesting to see is how these riders as leaders compare to the chasing riders in Category 1, and how the leading riders in Categories 2, 3 and 4 compare to the chasing riders behind. Now, we're not necessarily going to see all that data now, but seeing where those positions are as you go through is a great snapshot and is on that results page, so it's well worth a look.
It is. And also what's interesting here as we go through the final sprint segment, Bruni and Koistinen first and second in the Category 1 race, setting the fastest time there, 26 seconds. Carolus and Daniel first and second in the Category 2 race, just 1.5 seconds back, then Montgomery, and then Kimberly Miller. So Kimberly Miller actually riding with Julia Montgomery. Miller currently leading the Category 3 race. Behind them, there is no one sole category chase group. They are all starting to come together.
And you can just see Ella Vinkmas come onto your screens individually there. That means that she was ahead of Hannah Giannatti, because otherwise those screens would have gone on. That gives you an indication that she came through there absolutely flying. And at the moment, we're going to see where they're going to be. So the riders coming through, Giannatti, Warren, Vink, Piccolo chasing. We've got a big group behind. They are not closing the riders down. In Category 1, though, what you'll notice, there were no other Category 1 riders on there. These two riders went clear on the top of the climb. I said I'd be happy to give them a minute. I think I'm going to be proved wrong because they weren't a minute clear and they're still going to stay clear, but they have worked all the way down that descent. Absolutely stunning riding. So your leaders, left-hand side of your screen, Koisten, Bruni in there. You can see Koisten as the rider we're watching. The second group on the road, Sarah Carolus, you can see in here with Jenny Daniel. You've got Julia Montgomery on your screens, one of our two riders in the polka dot skin suits in there. And that means that the other rider in there is going to be, I think if I'm correct, it's Julia Montgomery along with, I think, I'm just looking at these times, the polka dot jersey of Kimberly Miller. And then the right-hand side, Ella Vink. And now Vink has got company here, but it's Giannatti, the Category 2 rider, who is with Vink. But we know that Vink is an incredibly strong rider on the flat and on when she can work and put down a consistent pace. And that is what's happening. Remember, this is 35 kilometers long, the race. And that means that there is still a reasonable distance to the finish,
2
but not
kilometers.
a huge distance to the finish.
2 kilometers to the finish line for our Category 1 riders, Koisten and Bruni. Koisten now pushing on over 5 watts per kilo just on this rise, coming to the flat top there. Does that mean that Koisten's got the legs for the finish and that Bruni is not going to be able to go with her? Only time will tell. Carolus and Daniel still wheel by wheel, tied for first place in Category 2. Montgomery, well, she is not closing that down. Still 20 seconds back to Julia Montgomery, third place in that Category 2 race. Kimberly Miller, well, she's still 20 seconds clear of Ella Vink. Hannah Giannatti is with Vink as well. She's currently lying fourth in Category 2.
Absolutely amazing racing here on the course. The riders working very hard to stay clear of the chase behind. It's paying off, though, and I think the strength that they showed on the climb is shown again here. Now, Koistinen setting a tempo up here of 5.5 watts per kilo. She's putting the pressure onto Bruni here, but Bruni is responding. She's going on. That was a little touchy-feely, let's see how you're going kind of moment. Those are the ones that you want to see, putting a little bit of pressure on, see if you get a response, see if you get an answer. So it could be you can break clear.
Well, the question is Bruni just playing the waiting game here and not responding to Koistinen? Does Koistinen think she's got this in the bag? Because Bruni's not responding, who knows what's going to happen at the moment? But Mina Koistinen and Merle Bruni are absolutely neck and neck with 800 meters to go. They're swinging around this last set of corners here. The time and the road is running out, and it's Bruni in one, Koistinen in two. Koistinen goes over the top, Koistinen in one, Bruni in two. It's neck and neck. Bruni goes over the top, Koistinen in two. The riders take the right-hand bend. They cannot see the finish line yet. They are continuing to work here. Bruni and Koistinen neck and neck. They went clear on the climb today. They've got 300 meters. The finish line is around the next bend. Who is going to see it? But Koistinen's gone early at 8 watts per kilo. Bruni is responding. Can she come up and over the top of Mina Koistinen, or can Mina Koistinen hold this? Koistinen runs to the finish. Bruni comes over the top. I think Bruni's going to take this from Mina Koistinen. That was by a wheel.
What a finish, what a run for the line. Those are two very tired riders coming through. What a race here today as we see our next sprint unfold. This is Category 2 on the way in, and Carolus has got the front of the race here. She's going to lead this out. Daniel is immediately behind her, though. Will she run over the top? Here she goes.
So Carolus turning the corner. She's going to see the gantry. She's going to come through over the line. She's going to take the win from Jenny Daniel in Category 2. They were together for so long in this race. the other two riders together? Well, that is Kimberly Miller, the woman in the polka dot skin suit, currently leading the Category 3 race with Julia Montgomery. She is in the Category 2 race. So Miller now coming round the corner, our leader in the Category 3 race. We've had Category 1, we've had Category 2. This now is Kimberly Miller. She's going to take the win in the Category 3 race. Well done to Miller. Montgomery comes over the line to take third place in the Category 2 race.
Well, I'm not surprised. Ella Vink is up there celebrating. She's going to come in through. She was chasing hard all the way through. She's in second place in her competition. Giannatti racing away in fourth place in Category 2 in the green jersey. But it's the blue jersey of Ella Vink who's coming in towards the line. She's going to take the win in, second place in Category 3. As we see Category 2 unfolding behind with more Category 1 riders.
Yep, so it's Maria Holcroft here who's going to take third place in the Category 1 race. Amelia Velt is going to come through for fourth. Wow, let's take a run through the results on the screen. So Merle Bruni in first place, 57 minutes. That's a quick race today, because Bruni and Koinsonen pushed on the climb, and they pushed on during the rest of the race to stay clear. Behind, Maria Holdcroft comes through for third. Amelia Velt comes through for fourth in that Category 1 race. Carolus from Daniel, from Montgomery, from Giannatti in Category 2. And then we saw Kimberly Miller come through for Category 3 from Ella Vink, from Brittany Lytton. Category 4, well, those are still to come in. Absolutely fast and furious racing, Matt. Really need to take a look at the men's race and the women's race on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel to take a look at all the results today. Well, thank you very much for joining us today with me, Emma Martin, and my co-host today in the women's race.
It's me, Matt Payne. You can follow me at MattFixPayne. Please do give MyWhoosh a follow, and follow Emma. It's at biking_Emma.
The racing has been fast and furious, and we saw all of those women's races complete nigh on at the same time today. What racing we've seen in Australia on the outer loop. I can't wait until next week. We are back at the same time next week. The men's race will be first, then the women's race, as it was today. So until then, enjoy your cycling. Stay safe. We will see you next Sunday. Ramadan Mubarak.